The gates are sealed. Beyond the walls, the fields burn. Traders have vanished. Grain convoys no longer arrive, and no army is marching to your rescue. Inside the city, coins still clink in purses, contracts technically remain valid, and laws still exist on parchment. But none of it matters anymore, because in a siege, money doesn't disappear first. Trust does. Welcome to the Financial Historian, where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it seems. When we imagine ancient warfare, we picture clashing armies, raised swords, and dramatic breaches of towering walls. It's a reassuring image. It suggests that wars are decided by courage, strength, or battlefield genius. But that picture is mostly wrong. Most ancient wars were not won in open combat. They were won slowly, quietly, and economically. Through sieges. A siege wasn't about defeating soldiers. It was about disabling a system, cutting supply lines, halting trade, turning time itself into a weapon. The objective wasn't to destroy the city from the outside. It was to let the city unravel from within. Ancient cities weren't just clusters of people. They were economic machines. They concentrated labor, wealth, food reserves, political authority, and legitimacy. Control the city, and you controlled the surrounding region. A direct assault was costly and uncertain. Starvation was cheaper. A besieging army didn't need victory in battle. It only needed patience. And patience worked because cities relied on constant inflows of food, fuel, and belief. When those flows stopped, the economy inside the walls began to behave in ways that felt cruel, irrational, even inhuman, yet were entirely predictable. The first thing that changed wasn't currency. Coins didn't vanish overnight. Prices didn't instantly descend into chaos. What changed was desire. In stable times, money is a promise, a claim on future goods. In a siege, the future contracts promises, los credibility. Food stops being a commodity and becomes the medium of exchange. Grain replaces silver. Bread replaces wages. Rations replace salaries. Whoever controls food controls the city. This is where the siege economy truly takes shape. Authorities seize distribution because they must. Allowing free markets under extreme scarcity leads to explosive prices, immediate starvation among the poor, and rapid unrest. So the state intervenes. Rationing systems emerge. Fixed prices are declared. Bread is subsidized or confiscated outright. On paper, it looks like order. In reality, it creates something far more dangerous, a widening gap between official rules and lived experience. Price controls don't remove scarcity, they rearrange it. Merchants don't stop responding to incentives because laws demand it. If selling grain legally guarantees ruin, they won't sell it. They hide it, stretch it, hoard it. Smuggling becomes more profitable than obedience. Hoarding becomes logical. Black markets don't appear because people become immoral. They appear because survival rewards rule-breaking. Siegi economies don't erase markets. They push them underground. Meanwhile, trust disintegrates. Citizens stop believing money will protect them. They stop believing laws will save them. They stop believing tomorrow will resemble yesterday. And once trust collapses, every transaction becomes political. Every loaf of bread becomes a judgment about who deserves to live another day. Every ration is a display of power. Food distribution ceases to be logistics and becomes legitimacy. This is where inequality stops being theoretical and becomes fatal. In normal times, abundance masks disparities. In a siege, nothing hides them. Elites enter with compounding advantages: stored grain, private networks, political leverage. They can negotiate, they can wait. The poor cannot. Most city dwellers depended on daily markets to survive. When those markets fail, there is no buffer. Soldiers eat first. Officials eat first. Everyone else is told to endure. A siege doesn't create inequality. It strips away the illusion that it wasn't already there. As weeks drag on, money continues to circulate, but it buys less and less. Coins don't vanish. They become irrelevant. Barter takes over. A sack of grain outweighs a chest of silver. Jewelry is exchanged for bread. Furniture becomes fuel. The economy doesn't collapse randomly. It simplifies value, snaps back to usefulness. Whatever keeps you alive today becomes priceless. Anything promising future reward becomes worthless. This is the point many cities cross without realizing it. The point of no return. Laws still exist, but enforcement fades. Contracts still exist, but outcomes don't. Authority still claims power, but capacity shrinks with every missed meal. Siege economies expose a harsh truth. Systems don't fail all at once. They fail in layers. First, trust. 10 markets, then legitimacy. Order collapses last. From the outside, a siege looks motionless. Walls stand. Armies wait. Inside, everything shifts. Incentives sharpen. Loyalties realign. Survival becomes the organizing principle. The besieging army doesn't need to breach the gates. The economy inside is already doing the work. By the time a city realizes money can't save it, the siege has already succeeded. The illusion shatters when endurance becomes arithmetic. How much food remains? How many mouths must be fed? How long before hunger rewrites loyalty? At that moment, sieges stop being military standoffs and become economic judgments. History records this transition relentlessly, because once a siege economy matures, the outcome is rarely uncertain. Athens learned this during the Peloponnesian War. Behind the long walls, the city believed sea access and silver reserves guaranteed safety. For a while, they did. Wages were paid, money flowed. The system appeared intact, but plague, overcrowding, and supply strain revealed the weakness beneath. Grain shortages ignited panic. Trust collapsed faster than stone walls ever could. Athens didn't fall because its treasury emptied. It fell because its economic assumptions did. Prosperity became vulnerability. Logistics outlasted ideals. Rome learned the lesson repeatedly. In the sieges of the late Republic and Empire, food not coin was decisive. Currency was plentiful. Authority survived on paper. But once supply routes were severed, urban populations turned from assets into liabilities. Grain doles became ticking clocks. When bread stopped arriving, loyalty evaporated. Riots followed. Emperors rose and fell not on battlefields, but in streets. Rome ruled with food, and when food failed, so did power. No city demonstrates the siege economy more clearly than Constantinople. For centuries, its walls held firm not because they were impenetrable, but because the city mastered its true lifeline wasn't stone, it was the sea. Grain, trade, and supplies flowed through the Bosporus, buying time even when enemies gathered. But in 1453, that lifeline was severed. Ottoman forces under Mehmed II sealed maritime access, strangling the economy before the siege fully began. Inside the walls, rations tightened. Prices exploded. Barter replaced currency. Starvation became leverage. Constantinople endured nearly 2 months longer than most cities could. But endurance has limits. When the city fell, it wasn't because its treasury was empty. It was because time and supply had run out. This pattern repeats because starvation isn't an accidental byproduct of siege warfare. It is the strategy. Hunger fractures coordination. It compresses time horizons. It forces unbearable choices. Starving people don't think in ideologies or long-term loyalty. They think in meals. Siege economies weaponize that reality. They turn survival into negotiation. Surrender becomes an economic calculation, not a moral failure. What makes siege economies so unsettling is how quickly money loses its symbolic power. Currency is a social agreement, a shared belief that tomorrow will resemble today. Sieges destroy that belief. When tomorrow becomes uncertain, deferred value collapses. Inflation accelerates not because prices rise, but because confidence dies. Value compresses into the present: food, fuel, shelter, protection. Everything else fades into noise. That's why sieges feel modern. Remove the walls and armies, and the mechanics remain. Disrupt supply chains. Restrict movement. Introduce scarcity. Watch how quickly normal economics dissolves. Blockades, sanctions, trade shocks, and natural disasters all trigger the same sequence, not because history repeats, but because incentives don't change. Sanctions don't attack money directly. They attack access. Imports slow. Payments file. Insurance vanishes. Goods arrive late or not at all. Substitutes degrade. Quality falls. Prices rise. Not due to greed, but because scarcity concentrates value. Supply chains snapping follow the same logic. The system fractures along existing fault lines. Those with inventory wait. Those without pay immediately. Natural disasters reveal this with brutal clarity. Roads close. Power fails. Fuel runs out. Official prices remain. Availability doesn't. Barter replaces currency. Trust becomes local. Information outweighs money. People stop asking what something should cost and start asking whether it exists. The economy doesn't disappear, it compresses. This is where inflation, panic buying, and trust collapse converge. Inflation signals fading confidence in future access. Panic buying is a vote against the system's reliability. Black markets aren't chaos. They're proof that markets adapt faster than rules. Remove imports. Restrict movement. Interrupt logistics. Violence isn't required. Time is enough. Because once trust and access erodes, money stops coordinating behavior. And when money fails to coordinate, power reasserts itself through control of supply. There's a reason panic buying looks the same across centuries. When trust breaks, people don't hoard currency. They hoard certainty. Grain or fuel, bread or generators, the items change. The psychology doesn't. Nothing reveals belief in a system faster than how people behave when they no longer sure it will exist tomorrow. And this is the final, uncomfortable lesson of siege economies. They reveal what systems are truly designed to protect. In every siege, the pattern holds. Authority prioritizes stability over fairness. Distribution favors control over equality. Loss is managed, not eliminated. Someone always bears the cost. Economies don't invent cruelty. They expose allocation. This isn't ancient history warning us about collapse. It's ancient history explaining design. Economies are fragile because they rely on assumptions, continuous trade, enforceable trust, predictable tomorrow. When those assumptions break, what remains isn't chaos. It's hierarchy. Power concentrates. Value simplifies. Rules bend. And the system reveals its priorities. Sieges teach us that money is never the foundation of survival. It's the interface. Food, energy, and trust are the reserves beneath it. When those vanish, no amount of silver, gold, or paper can hold an economy together. Cities didn't fall because faith disappeared. They fell because the math stopped working. History doesn't repeat, but pressure does. And pressure always exposes structure. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to find them.